You know how I was saying I'm not a smart guy?
That is true. You are not.
Listen, yeah, but at least I'm upfront about it. You know, this vaccination bombshell, I want to call it bombshell, but everybody's playing it off like, no, man, I knew that the vaccines don't last forever, and it's all about herd immunity, or I don't know what kind of BS people are saying, but I think I'm in the minority then because everybody acts like they know, but I really did think that once you get your vaccine, it's like one and then it lasts forever. I didn't know you needed another recharge. And
Well, you get the first one, right? And
Yeah.
that's like half vaccinates you.
Yeah.
And then you get the second dose, unless you're getting Johnson & Johnson, which is a one-shotter.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, at least to my knowledge, my vast medical knowledge, once you get the two shots, a couple of weeks later, your body is fully vaccinated and you're good to go. You're ready to party, throw out your mask, and go nuts in Miami or
Listen, Dave,
and lick things and make out with strangers.
I don't think that's the case, Dave. I think you're misinformed as well. I don't think that's a good dude. So I lined up a doctor, and you're not going to believe who I got on the phone to talk to us, dude. I was able to get Dr. Phil on the phone.
Dr. Phil?
Dr. Phil.
The TV doctor?
Yeah. Dr. Phil, are you there? Dr. Phil? Oh, wait. Is that
Hello?
Dr. Gill?
Hello. Yes.
Oh, man. It's not Dr. Phil. It's Dr. Gill.
That was a typo then on the schedule.
Our bad.
You guys lucked out today.
Look. He may not be a TV doctor, but he at least is a real doctor.
Yeah.
Hey, Dr. Gill, what's your qualifications? Or is that a thing?
Okay.
Qualifications? Or what's your...
Sure. Yeah. I went to college at UCLA. Did my medical school in Chicago. Did my residency at UCLA. And been practicing almost 13 years now as an adult medicine doctor. I do family medicine, internal medicine,
Nice.
some other stuff.
So he should know what he's talking about, right?
I would hope so. Dr. Gill, we have many questions. Dave, do you want to go first?
No.
Okay.
What I want to ask you is, what did you see? Why do we have Dr. Gill? What did you see that is blowing your mind about the vaccine?
Okay, so I have
the COVID-19 vaccine, I should say.
Yeah, so I have a couple of questions. Okay, first I want to talk a little bit about when you get your first dose. How many weeks does it take after your first dose to get to what I think? I have the Pfizer. Does it take 2 weeks to get to 80%? Because that's the number I've heard that once you get your first dose, within 2 weeks you're at 80% vaccination.
Right. So, people think they're hearing this like 14 days after your vaccine, you're protected. It's a spectrum. So you're building up antibodies. Once you get the vaccine, you're building up antibodies. And so someone draws like this arbitrary line saying, yeah, at 14 days, then that dose you just got, now you're at optimal protection. So yeah, from those studies, you get, 80% like from the first dose. And then after 2 weeks of the second dose, you're at, 90 something percent. So
Okay.
yeah, yes.
So then, does it work kind of like, okay, so if I get my second dose tomorrow, as each day goes by, a percentage theoretically increases, right? Until I get to that 95%.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It's not like a light switch is turned on where you're like at 0 and then all of a sudden you're at 95% on day 14. Right. Exactly.
Okay. And then the really crazy thing that blew my mind, and I'm not a medical doctor, and like I was so upfront, I might be a moron, but I really was under the impression that once you got vaccinated, that you were good forever. But that seems not to be the case. Does this mean that 6 months down the road, all of us have to get another shot, or what does this mean?
Well, that's we don't have the exact answer to that question, but we're preparing because there's a definitely good chance that it could happen. The viruses like other like COVID, like other viruses are going to mutate, especially if not everyone's been vaccinated. People are not social distancing. So as the virus is trying to replicate and survive, any like mutation in its DNA, when it then gets copied to someone else, that mutation then can maybe potentially escape the vaccine and escape the antibodies that you've developed. So that's why you've heard of this UK variant, probably this South African variant, this Brazil one. And it seems so far that Pfizer and Moderna still protect us although not as good as the original strain, the OG strain,
Right.
but still good enough to probably protect us.
Well, what about the Johnson and Johnson? Because that's the weak sauce one that Dave got.
Well, you know,
No,
it's comparing apples and oranges because Johnson & Johnson's trials were already when we had these variants and mutations. So because the
yeah,
efficacy looks
what I
lower,
heard.
you can't say with certainty that it's worse. And the main outcome we're really looking at is severe hospitalizations and death.
Right.
So if you get the Johnson & Johnson, no one ended up on a ventilator in the ICU or died, and that's really the most important thing. But you could have a mild to moderate
J&J.
infection.
Okay.
Is that what you got? Is that what you got, Dave? You got the J&J?
Yeah. J&J.
Hey, Gil,
One and done.
Gil, so then kind of break this down for me. You know, when I was a kid, I got vaccinated for polio. Is there if I go to somewhere and I'm exposed to polio, there is a chance I could actually get polio?
Polio still actually does exist, like here and there. There are certain countries where it will recommend that you get a polio booster as an adult in
No
order
way.
to visit. I actually got it a couple of years ago. I think it was for maybe Ukraine, I think. So it depends. Some of these viruses, yeah, you get like your hepatitis A and B as a kid. It's supposed to last lifelong. HPV vaccine, supposed to be lifelong.
Got it.
But yeah, those viruses aren't, they're not so highly contagious and mutating like COVID is, or like even the flu shot, which we have to get every year.
Oh.
So it sounds like we're going to need a booster if you've already had your first two or one, to protect us from these new mutations, these new strains, these new variants. They're also even developing just a newer version of the vaccine, which includes the newer variants, because when they were first developed, we only had like the original strain.
Right.
So it's looking like that, but we don't know for sure, but it's looking like that. And if I were to guess, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, we get a flu shot and a COVID shot. Maybe it's combined in one or two vaccines like every fall to protect us through the winter when everyone's huddled together, it's colder weather.
Got it.
Infections are spread more easily.
So I'm not a total moron thinking this way, right?
Well, no, of course not. I think a lot of the news articles, like if you look at the headlines, maybe you saw that it said, Pfizer vaccine lasts 6 months or Moderna vaccine lasts 6 months. But if you actually look at the fine print and actually read the article, it says the people who were in the trials originally been tested, they checked their antibody levels 6 months out through like 3 different types of tests called assays. Right. And all of them still had very high antibody levels. A little bit of decline from the very beginning, but still very protective. So the details actually say they're protected for at least 6 months or more, and we're still going to follow these people along, keep checking their antibodies. So those vaccines will protect you from the original strain at least 6 months and probably longer.
Cool.
So, Dr. Gill, just because you're vaccinated, you're not immune to the disease, right?
The question of whether you can still get infected and pass it around, I think, is what you're implying, right?
Yes.
To the original strain, I think you're not going to get infected, not be contagious. But with these new variants and your antibodies aren't quite as strong, and the the one vaccine that I think about is the AstraZeneca vaccine, which you might have heard in Europe, kind of got some bad press about maybe there's blood clots.
That's the one Bean got.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, again, I don't think anyone had severe infections or passed away from COVID, but the 1 out of a million chance to get a blood clot could be dangerous. So that one, maybe you might get a mild to moderate infection and be contagious. So it's hard to say. There's still the weaker your immune system is to a virus. Yes, you might have an asymptomatic infection. You might have asymptomatic spread. So probably not with if you got Pfizer, Moderna, and America right now. But 6 months from now, things might be different. It's hard to predict.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Gill, and thank you so much again for hopping on the phone with us. But I know there's a 5% chance of getting COVID even if you're vaccinated. However, with that said, if you got COVID without the vaccination and you were going to have a severe reaction to that virus, if you are vaccinated and then contract COVID, does the vaccination lessen your symptoms?
Yes, that was a long question. I was trying to follow that along.
Okay, yeah.
But at least to the last part, if you have been vaccinated and you get infected, yes, your symptoms generally should be mild. We used
Got
to
it.
always encourage people to get the flu vaccine because there's been some studies too that if you have a flu shot and then you get the flu, it won't be you might still get the flu, but at least it won't be as bad as if you didn't have the vaccine. So the
Okay.
same thing seems to apply to the COVID vaccine as well.
All right, Dr. Gill, I have a question. So, like with the flu shot, when people get it, like my girlfriend Krista got it, and then immediately had 100-degree fever and had to take all these medicines, medications.
Hmm.
And then with the vaccination for the COVID vaccination, she had a reaction and I didn't. Why is that? Why are certain people getting, reactions to these shots, like these vaccines, and other
Yeah,
people don't?
it's a great question. So she got Johnson & Johnson too, and she had never
Yeah.
had COVID uh,
Mm-mm.
either. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly
It's
right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty random, to be honest. Some people, just have this overactive immune system maybe, and create a lot of, the bigger your side effects that you have kind of implies that you're making a lot of antibodies. But you can't say if you don't have side effects, that means you're not making antibodies. You can't look at it like that. Even if you have no side effects, you still could be making a lot of antibodies. But yeah, it's kind of hit or miss. I've heard it just randomly. I think we talked about this last time, that if you've had a COVID infection, your vaccine side effect tends to be stronger, and that's why COVID people might only need one instead of two shots, 'cause they might have enough antibodies just after one. But yeah, I think it's just hit or miss. The older you are, the least likely you're going to have, well, the lower likelihood of a big immune response. So if you actually break down the vaccine trials, you look at the fact sheets, people under 65 do have a stronger efficacy than people over 65. So for instance, Moderna, although they say it's like 94% effective or 93, 94, if you look under 65, it's actually 96% effective. But when you look at over 65, it's only 86% effective. So you would think that older people also, yeah, are less likely to have a bad reaction too.
Now, Dr. Gill, we've heard so much about these people who don't want to get vaccinated and they want to contract COVID because they believe in herd immunity. Can you kind of break down for us what that is and if that will be effective at all? And if these people who are not getting vaccinated, are they going to ruin it for the rest of us?
So yes to the last part. So herd immunity is basically when you have enough of a population immune, either through vaccination and or infection, that they can't get sick from the disease that's running around. And the minority of people in that population who have not been vaccinated or infected are protected because everyone else has already been infected or been vaccinated.
Mm.
So the problem with this herd immunity, where people say, let's just let everyone get infected. If we just let everyone get infected, then lots of people are going to die.
Right.
Which is not, a trade-off anyone's willing to take. So that's why the Sweden thing was like, not a good idea. You want to get herd immunity. That's a good thing, but you want it through basically all vaccination and no infection, ideally.
Right.
But in the world we exist, it's going to be a combination. So either you have so much infection and or so much vaccination that you get to this golden number, and everyone's kind of debated, is it 80, 90%? Is it 60, 70%? When do we get that threshold where then that remainder, 10 or 20% of people who aren't vaccinated are just automatically protected? And those people, the problem that a lot of people think is, well, if they don't get the vaccine, they're going to be fine. They're going to be protected. But the problem is a lot of people can't get the vaccine because they have a low immune system. Let's say they're on immunosuppressant drugs, or they have, cancer or HIV. There's certain medical conditions. They just can't get a vaccine, and they depend on us to wear a mask, keep our distance, get vaccinated so that they will be protected. But if there is so much virus rampant in a country or a population or a state, and it's replicating, so it can create more variants by what's called genetic mutation, there's just an accident and a copying, and that leads to a stronger strain, then these vaccines won't protect us, and they're going to be more vulnerable.
Oh, man.
And that's going to make us more vulnerable, because even though we got vaccinated for these certain strains, a new strain very well may not be protected. And so that's the problem. How, in America, at least we're doing really well. By the end of this weekend, I think 50% of Americans will have had at least one or two doses. But I don't know if you follow the news. A bunch of other countries are like barren. They have no vaccine.
It's terrible.
They have no hospitals. I mean, like, we're very lucky that we can vaccinate ourselves, but we're not just in a vacuum, and our borders have walls that no one can go in and out, right? And so we're open to having a lot. Once the borders open up, and if they're not been vaccinated, it's back to square one.
Yeah, let me ask you the last thing for me, Dr. Phil, is that so many people are out there are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and I think a lot of people are what's that football expression? They're celebrating in the 5-yard line, the 5-yard line instead of actually waiting it out to score a touchdown. You see all these states with no mask mandate, or they lifted the mask mandate, and here in California, Gavin Newsom said that we're going to reopen, mid-June. Is that not good? Is that going to be a huge issue?
That's a really good question, Beer Mug. I appreciate that question.
Hey!
Thanks for your input. I think Newsom, although he says it's not politically motivated, about his potential recall, the June 15 is a lofty, ambitious, reasonable goal. Our rates in California our positivity rate is the lowest in the whole country. Now, why that is unclear. Was it because we had that big surge in December and now we have a lot of herd immunity in January already? Mm-hmm. I don't know. But based off the data that the scientists have put out for, tiers and all that stuff, if we stay on track, it actually is pretty reasonable that we can have indoor concerts and indoor, venues.
Wow.
But there's that big but of our state.
Don't be a downer, man.
There's a but, and you cannot lie, dude. Come on.
Yeah, but people can come from out of state into our state, especially if it's attractive. Oh, California has no cases. Let's just go there, and then maybe they might bring a strain in here. But that's why we don't know. I hope it's looking good so far. But yes, all these other states like Michigan and you might have heard. The mask mandate states that were lifted are having a lot of young population because they haven't been vaccinated.
Right.
They're not over 65 or eligible yet. So I don't know if that answered your question. Your question was whether it's going to be. It's hopeful. He did put the disclaimer: this could change if our rates get worse. If things change, we could just lock things back up. So. That's we want to have motivation, hopefully, and optimism, but we'll know when we get closer to that date whether we are ready to open and lift all those things off. Except the mask mandate, that's going to stay on.
Right.
All right, Dr. Gill. My final question is: so you're vaccinated, I'm vaccinated, and Omar's half vaccinated. Beer Mug is dead. So can we all go outside and do shots and get wasted now and have fun? Or do we still have to be cautious?
Great question, Dave. I love that.
Well, if we're outside and distance, we can always do that. But maybe you meant like indoors. So if it's been 14 days after you're fully vaccinated, so 2 with the Pfizer Moderna, 1 with the Johnson Johnson, we can actually be all indoors without a mask.
Hell yeah.
Hugging each other. Kissing each other.
We're making out, baby. We're making out. I'm making out with everybody.
Yeah, you can feel free to do that.
All right, on. All right, well, Dr. Gill, thanks so much. He's a real doctor, not a TV doctor, from UCLA. He just doesn't want to go to Spokane anymore because Gonzaga... I'm sure put a dagger in.
Oh, man. Oh man.
But hey, man, thanks so much for coming on and joining us and actually saying smart things and teaching stupid people like us, giving us some good information.
Yeah. You guys are great. You guys are really smart questions. I hope people listening have learned a little bit. But
awesome.
Just get your vaccine as soon as you can. We're gonna get through this. And I really appreciate talking to you guys. R.I.P. Beer Mug.
All right, dude. Thanks, Dr. Grill.
And if the Janksters have any questions, like medical questions, like anything, like what's that sore? Why is it
what's that
is
sore?
It red down there?
That's got to be a regular segment. What's that sore? Are you kidding?
Hit up Dr. Gill on Instagram. He loves it. So.
Yeah, I have.
Hey, Dr. Gill, what's your Instagram?
I'll give it to you. My Instagram is Dr. Gill. DRGIL.
Awesome, dude.
Right on.
Thanks, Gil.
All right, Dr. Gill.
Okay, take care.
See you,
Bye-bye.
man. Bye.
Later, man.